Welcome to my weekly review. Today is Saturday, August 30th, and we just finished the month of August, which was another up month for the Nasdaq. But you're looking at a daily chart of the Nasdaq, which fell 250 points or 1.15% on Friday. Pulled back, you could call it in spirit to the 21. It's still, closed above it, 0.4% above the 21. So essentially, that's a kiss of the 21 on Friday. And you just keep, it's grinding higher, it's melting up, but I got to just point out a couple things here. Oh, by the way, just for some housekeeping items, 21,455 is where it closed, down 40% last week or 0.19%. And this is the second week in a row where it's had a down week. It was down the prior week 126 points or 0.58%. So it made this high of 21,803 and it's pulled back the last couple of weeks. This is an 18-week rally, which if I click on here, I think I'll get my little rally. Yeah. You can see the prior rallies since the 2022 bear market were 18 weeks, 20 weeks. We had a 12-week rally and a 15-week rally. Now this has been 18 weeks with the last 2 weeks as a pullback. As we head into August, excuse me, as we head into September, August was the fifth consecutive winning month for the Nasdaq. There you can see we got liberated in April, May, June, July, and August was up 1.58%, 333 points up. Would I expect September to hold for us? I think it's about time for a correction. Just a little bit of a pullback would set up some of these. I'm going to get this out of here. It's bugging me. Set up some of the leading stocks are extended. I'm going to get to that at the end of the video. And we just need a reset a little bit. I'm not saying it's going to, crash below the 50, although it might. But, just markets and stocks, they can correct through price or time. And if this corrects through time, like the month of September, just give us like a 6 week pullback from the middle of August to October. That'll set us up for a year-end rally. I'm not predicting that. I take things one day at a time, but that is a scenario that I think is plausible at this point. After, I'm going to show you at the end of the video all these leading stocks that just need to pull back. And I'm going to show some rotation and I'm going to start with some earnings reports, some themes, and then I'm going to get into the earnings for next week and then the extended leader. So that's the gist of my video today. The Nasdaq, like I said, fell to 250 on Friday. I blame Baba for that. Baba's chip is going to ruin the world. All right, a couple of other interesting things to note. The IWM was up last week. Well, I just said the Nasdaq was down, the IWM was up. It kind of lends to the interest rate cut in September theme or theory that some people are predicting that we're going to get an interest rate cut. And this week we have Monday as a holiday, Labor Day holiday, so it's a short week, and on Friday we have the jobs numbers. And if we get a weak jobs report, I think that'll cement at least a quarter point rate cut in September. All right, so the IWM was up and the SPY was just flat. I mean, you couldn't get any more flat than that. Just trading sideways. Looks like a 4 weeks tight area. Okay. I want to get to some stocks because I trade stocks, not indexes or exchange traded funds. And this is Google. Had it on the ready list weekly. I was fortunate to get in below, right around the pivot area here. And there's a theory here that the antitrust decision by the judge is that they're going to split up maybe Chrome or YouTube, or maybe they'll leave it the same. Nobody knows. But I believe either way, Google's going to have a relief rally just to have that event behind them, even if they do spin off Chrome. Just knowing, having some clarity, I think Google's going to continue to run. They've been delivering strong growth. So that's one of the Mag 7 stocks that I do like. Microsoft, you got to note this here, had this big run up to 555, from 344, and now it's pulled back. And this is what I'm talking about. Some of these stocks need to reset. We need to, correct, maybe not through price, but through time. And if it holds there at 500 for a few weeks, There's nothing wrong with that. You got to look at the weekly here. This is a weekly review. Had a big consolidation pattern, like I said, the move from 344 to 555, and it's just tired, When sprinters run a sprint, they get tired. I know they were interviewed after their winning 100 dash race like Usain Bolt, and he's huffing and puffing, and he's tired, right? Because he needs a rest. Same thing with this Microsoft and a lot of the leading stocks. They just had a big long sprint and now they need to rest. That's why I like the horse racing because they interview the jockey and not the horse. Because the horse is tired after running a race, right? And have you ever seen a talking horse? I digress. Amazon, this one is strangest looking chart here. Had a 4 weeks tight heading into this earnings event, and then it sold off on earnings, undercut the. You can see that's the red line there is essentially the um, 50-day line is the 10-week line, undercut that, and now it's had it's a flat base, but it's a 3 weeks tight pattern heading into next week. Let's take a look at this on the daily. There you go. Undercut the 50-day, rallied back up, and it's been 3 weeks closing tight. Okay, closing, not this is not a lot of tight trading. It's just bouncing off the 50 here. So anyway, that's Google, Amazon, Microsoft. I really don't want to talk about the other Mag 7s, but I will. I had Tesla on my ready list last week. It didn't do much. It's not doing much at all. It was down nearly 2%, just consolidating within this base. It looked like it was going to move. I mean, it had a good move at the beginning of the week, and then the last 3 days, whoosh, back to the 21. So that's it for the Mag 7. I said I wanted to get to the earnings report last week. We saw a software rotation into the software names. MongoDB had a Mongo move after its earnings report, 38%, and this is a big event here with all this volume, and it followed through on day two, and of course on day three makes a new high and then pulls back. Pretty typical of the day three, especially on a Friday into a 3-day weekend. You had to know that was going to be the case. Let's take a look on the 5 minute. Yeah, there's your gap higher, higher, and then it even went higher in the morning and then kind of sold off. But nice strong finish into the close. It was down to like 30, 308, yeah, on Friday. Had some buyers into the close. Snowflake, another software name that had big move on Thursday and then just an inside day on Friday. I'd still look for that one next week to move higher, depending upon the market's mood. If the market cooperates, I would expect that one to go higher. Anyway, strong report from these software names. You can see the accelerating sales and earnings growth. This is why I always say I believe earnings matter. I mean, I know people just want to look at the chart or the news is all that matters, but and it does. It all matters, but earnings matter too. And these guys were showing off last week. Pure Storage, again, big move on Thursday, 32%. It's quiet inside day on Friday, which is what you want to see from Pure Storage. This is a weekly report, so you can see this breakout here on the weekly. I should show the, sorry about that, MDB breaking out of a stage one there into stage two. That looks good. And Snowflake, yes, same thing here, making new highs. Snowflake looks very good. All right. I'm going to move on to another one. IREN is one that I actually own. I think it's undervalued since that Cores was acquired by, excuse me, yeah, Cores was acquired by CoreWeave, and it was a $9 billion stock purchase, and this one's at 4.3, but IREN has 3 times the capacity of Cores, and CoreWeave is sold off since the acquisition, so that tells you that the market doesn't believe CoreWeave stock was worth that 9 billion, whatever that they paid for Core Scientific. All right, I digress. I get back to IREN. This one's a little bit extended here, 130% above its 200, and 11, what is it, 11% above the 5. But, tremendous sales and earnings growth. I would expect that one to trade higher eventually, after allowing that 5 EMA to catch up, which was 2370 on Friday. Affirm, another, powerful earnings move here on Friday, closed near the lows of the session. Obviously the market was weak on Friday. Profit taking into a 3-day weekend, but once again, 11% move with massive volume. For Affirm AMBA, this is a semiconductor fabless play. Once again, closing near the lows of the session on a weak Friday for the market, but still up 17%. All right, that was the good news. We had some other news. NVIDIA reported, and it sliced through its 21 on Friday. The news from BABA with their chip really impacted some of these semiconductor names and just technology in general. CrowdStrike reported, not a great report. I can't get excited about 6% earnings growth, but they did say they had 44% ARR. So we'll have to wait and see on CrowdStrike. Obviously, Wall Street loves CrowdStrike. It pulled back to its 200 last week. You could see here's the sell-off here. Software had been selling off for a while now, before last week. Marvell just got hammered. Yeah, look at that. That's an inverted hammer candle on the weekly, folks. Oh boy, rough. Down 19% on the week. Look out below. I mean, it's below the 200, below the 50, below everything. Sorry about that, Marvell. ESTC, they reported and it was gapped up and after hours on Thursday afternoon. And then Friday morning I came in, it was like 105 Friday. Thursday evening and Friday morning, I come in, it was like 92. I'm going, oh boy. So all it did was rally up to the 200 and then got rejected like Matombo. And now it's trading between the 50 and the 200. That does not look good. And they guided lower for the next quarter, although they guided up for the year. So Elastic probably in a timeout for a little while. Ulta Beauty. Surprisingly, a strong report, and this thing just sliced its 50 with volume here. That's not what you want to see from Ulta Beauty. The CEO is cautious on our comments about the consumer. No, we're seeing a lot of that from Home Depot and Lowe's, Walmart, Target, Williams Sonoma, Caterpillar. This consumers kind of slowing, and the tariffs are having an impact, no doubt about it. So that's something to be mindful of with these retail names. A lot of retail stocks have been getting hammered, and we have more reporting next week. All right, I did mention Baba, and they have the super chip now, and it rallied 13% on that news. We'll see about that. It was reminiscent of the DeepSeek moment from January 27th of 2025. Anyway, congrats to those Bob alongs, which I am not one. All right, I said I was going to go through some themes. I got to start with the gold stocks. I don't own gold. I haven't owned gold. This is a leading group in 2025, the top performing group. And you could just, throw a dart at these things, and they've all been higher all year. GFI is a top performing stock. If you'll pardon me for a moment, if I go through this exercise and just show you that, GFI is a top performer in this group. There's a lot of them though. Kinross Gold's been up 100. These things are monsters, man. And I know people don't want to buy gold, but these things are just providing nice returns. So if you like nice returns, SSRM up 177%. This is Pan American Silver up 67% this year. Barrick, I mean, just a lot of them have been doing well. Even Harmony, which has been having trouble lately, DRD, triple digit. So I'm just saying, in 2025, these have been the leading groups, and there's a lot of leading stocks. Why haven't I owned one? I don't know. I'm just like, I got this brain block, that I can't buy a gold stock. But if I bought it, I guarantee it would sell off like 5%. I would get stopped out. But a lot of these are doing well, and I just got to show you the daily and weekly charts of some of these. Yeah, I mean, they're just lower left to upper right. This is what you want to see when you own a stock. And I'm not going to get into the reasons for why gold, is doing so well and why the price of gold is so high. But these stocks are, I don't know. They think I probably should own one, right? Barrick, I mentioned Barrick on the weekly. Yeah, these things all look pretty similar. Okay, so that's enough of that. The second top performing group is the energy group. And this is what I mean by, I think some of the leaders, big moves, big runs, and now they just need to correct a little bit. I'm not saying they need to crash or anything, but just some time. Like I said, all sprinters need a rest, and this one went from 252 up to 677. Come on, folks. They don't grow to the sky, so let this one breathe a little bit. Let them take a breather. Let them take a timeout. A lot of these names, this is still the second top performing group, even with this correction here. OKLO 17 to 85. Hello, undercut the 50. Rallied back up. It's still consolidating, right? In this, if you will, indulge me here, this little Darvis box here, and it might take a while, right? Like I said, the month of September is typically weak, so might be another 3 or 4 weeks here of consolidating. That's not the end of the world. It's going to give us an opportunity to get into some of these things. LEU, same thing, ran up from 49 to 264. Just taking a break here. Uh, you know, I'm not going to go through the comparison chart and show you how much these are up, but they're up a lot. So they they need to breathe, take a time out, except for BE. This one just wants to run and run and run. Now this is a late bloomer. While those others were running, this was consolidating in a base, and it just recently broke out here on this week. Right here, July 25th. So it's only been a month or so of rallying, call it 6 weeks. But man, it's up to 53 now. I was looking at this thing back here. Makes me sick when I don't act. I should have acted on gold. I should have acted on bloom, but I didn't. Uh, Such is trading, folks. Don't beat yourself up over that. I just joke about it. It's okay. You can catch the next one. There's always another trade. The third group I want to talk about is the telecom infrastructure, which VSAT has been a big leader in this group. And the reason why the group is so strong, you can see it's a top six group ranked, but performing wise, it's the third. This is why I monitor these stocks coming out of a stage one base because they start like this, up on volume and then they pull back and all of a sudden, boom, you get a big move. This one's gone from what, 861 to what it was up 33 last week. That's a big move, folks. DY is in this group as well, lower left to upper right, a little bit of a pullback, undercutting the 50. That was probably an earnings event. But another strong name, and also Ubiquity, say that fast 3 times. It's a $500 stock. I know it only has 150 average volume, but it's a $500 stock. Gapped up here, pulled back to the 5. It allowed the 5 to catch up. And we're seeing a lot of that with these gap ups that I showed you earlier on those earnings reports from last week. And they they go sideways and allow the 5 to catch up before moving higher. So I'd definitely be watching UI. All right, a couple of other groups that I am encouraged with the drug stocks. And this is another indication of we're going to get some rate cuts because multiples expand when interest rates come down a little bit. And MDGL, but this is a phenomenal company, and you can see it's turning from losing money to making money. The first couple of years of being profitable is usually when they get the most appreciation. You can see this one breaking out of a base on the weekly, up 5.5% last week. The last couple of weeks just been a monster move. While the Nasdaq has been pulling back, this one's been showing strength. This is telling you this one wants to go higher. This one's flexing. Same with INSM. They got approval for their drug. It ramped up, what, 3 weeks ago? 16% 2 weeks ago, up 3%. Last week, up another 3%. So this one's just grinding higher. So the drug names, a lot of them, ABVX is one. On the weekly, you can see this is a flag pattern here, where your high type flag. Let's take a look at this on the daily, where it gaps up and just goes sideways for a little bit, allows that 5 to catch up. And we're seeing a lot of this. So what you want to do is you just want to earmark some stocks that have gapped up and now trading sideways, because what happens is they make this move higher. And that's, if you miss this, you can still catch that, if you time it right. Um, So don't give up on them just because, you missed the move. You can still keep them on your watch list. And, that's good for a little trade there. A couple others I have in my biotech. I like biotech. I know a lot of people don't. This is ANIP gapping higher on news. And this is a generic drug play up 18%. And this one really didn't wait for the five to catch up. It pulled back one day on August 15th, nearly 3%, and it's just grinding higher. Kelly Slater stock surfing the five. Phenomenal move there. SUPN, and I'm not going to go through all these. There's a lot of them in the drug names. Just trying to get my point across. Don't be afraid of these biotechs. If they're surfing the five like that, you ride that trend on these breakouts. And RAPP, this one gets a bad rap. Haha. Rapport Therapeutics. I just point this one out because this one's kind of forming this like stage one base there at 1745. A nice little base there. It was up 19% last week while the Nasdaq was down. So not to be ignored, Dan. All right, that's enough for the drugs. Once again, I want to point out the rotation, some themes going on here with, I believe, what's to be lower interest rates that we're going to get in September. It could be a catalyst for a year-end rally, multiple interest rate cuts. Bank of America making new highs. That's something to be noted. The big banks are doing very well. Bank of America, let's take a look at this on the weekly. Yeah, breaking out of a base there. JP Morgan, I know these are slow, and sometimes you need some slow stocks in your portfolio. JP Morgan looks good. Goldman Sachs. Yeah, these things are just trading higher. They just want, higher lows, higher highs. Definition of an uptrend for these banks, even Wells Fargo. This one's consolidating in a base. Looks pretty good. Citigroup was another one that I was looking at. Yeah, made a new high last week. Pull back to the five, but you can see in the lower left, upper right, 55 to 96. And these are slower movers. I get it. These are big, massive banks with, you know, large market caps. But I'm also looking at some of the smaller ones. SoFi has just been on a heater from 8 up to what, 27 last week, just surfing the five very nicely. When I mention SoFi, I got to mention Lending Tree. Big move here and then pull back, allowing the five to catch up. But this one's gone from what, 33 to 67. So it's been a two bagger. Not bad for a bank. And then some of these other regional banks are doing well too. RF, Regions Financial, up 2.5% last week. Well, the NASDAQ founders, you could see this nice little base here. And now it's just pulling away from that. That one looks pretty good to me. RY, this is a Canadian bank. Um, yeah, breaking out last week and just had a double inside day. Ooh, be careful. Watch out for that one. But these banks look good to me. Yeah, making new highs, up 5.5% last week. What are the ones we have? Oh, I have HBAN. This is one that I traded in the past. Kind of like this one. Once again, a slower mover. You can see here, I go back to the weekly, big consolidation pattern here. So these are ones that I'm watching. Yes, we did see some rotation into these recently. And for the teeny tiny ones, 907 million market cap with a 105 average daily volume, 105,000. Tiny, teeny stock, very thinly traded, but breaking out. So, you know, big banks, little banks, regional banks are, they're doing well. All right, I'm going to get off of it. Another sign that interest rates are coming down. The home builder stocks are making this, they bottomed out. I identified the bottom here, mentioned it many, many times. They traded through their moving averages, now forming this cup-shaped pattern. Yeah, it was, flat on the week last week, but they're definitely trending up. There you can see this cup with handle pattern, 171 buy point there. These things look good. And you can see on the daily chart, you can see the 5 and the 21 rallying through the 200. Now the 50s rallied through the 200. So the 5, 21, and 50 are all stacked, trending up, higher highs, higher lows. I don't know why I haven't bought this one either. I'm going to make it a point to buy a gold stock and to buy a housing stock. How about that? DHI 171, I'm in. Okay. Pulte Homes, another one. Similar action here. You can see the moving averages, the 521.50 stacked as they traded through the slower or longer term moving averages, the 200. So this one, just forming a base here. These ones look good to me. But yeah, I'm going to have to buy one of these. I don't know why it takes me so long. I've been talking about these for a while and I just don't act. I'm slow on the uptake. There's there's two folks in the market, the quick and the dead. I don't want to be dead, so I better start acting on these. Green Brick Partners, same thing. The 521.50 rallied through the 200. So yeah, those are all uptrending. And if we get an interest rate cuts in September, which I believe we will, I believe that will be a strong group. Anyway, thank you for watching at mcstockcharts.com. We never give up. Accept and honor the great Steve Jobs. I have one more thing. Earnings next week. Actually, I have two more things. CRM reports, Zscaler reports, I believe on Tuesday. Yeah. The second, so the market opens Tuesday morning. Zscaler reports that afternoon. CRDO, Credo reports Wednesday. The third, I'm watching for that one. AEO, Sydney Sweeney's giving that one a little boost. They report on the third, which is Thursday. GitLab, another one that I'm watching. Might, no, I better not say anything. I don't want to jinx it. CIEN. Sienna, a networking fiber optic, telecom fiber optic play. They report. Broadcom's the biggie on Thursday. So we have to listen to what they have to say. And then Lulu, for those in retail, I'm not a fan. Too much competition here. Plus, they have the Canadian tariffs, and it's just a mess. I think they had their day. They went up the mountain. I'll go to the monthly. Been a great stock for a long time, but it looks to me like a stage 4 decline here. And then they do have stiff competition. If you go to the gym, people are wearing, Vioris and different brands now. They're not just all Lulu like it used to be. All right, I did mention I'm going to end the video here with the leaders, the former leaders. I shouldn't say former leaders. These are strong stocks. I'll just call them strong stocks that made big moves that now need to rest a little bit. And I'm talking from all different. Um, Industry groups. I did show you GE Vernova, LEU, Oklo earlier. Okay, so these all need rest. They're resting. I want to go back to LEU. This is one that I kind of like in this group. Kind of making this double bottom pattern to start with, right? And then right here, it did make a new high here. But yeah, it's got kind of that double bottom look. So give that one some more time. STRL and the, data center build out. This one ran from what 96 to 321. You think it's just going to keep going to 600? Well, it might, but it's going to take a base, right? Hasn't had a base for a long, long time. So let these things base. It doesn't hurt for a month or so of a pullback to let these things base. Still keep your eye on them. Maybe you get a good price on them. SoFi, I mentioned that one earlier. That one's been on a total heater. I think this one needs to form a base as well. DoorDash, definitely pulling back. Made that high 278 on August 7th. So it's already been, 3 or 4 weeks here where it's just pulling back to the 50 gently. The volume's been light. Just a pause on the way, a pit stop on the way. The Indianapolis 500 is 500 miles, so you might be in mile 200 and you need to take a pit stop there for DoorDash. AU, a gold stock that I'd shown earlier, made that high of 59.19 on August 7th. So that was the day a lot of stocks started their pullback, right? I mentioned the last 2 weeks in the Nasdaq have been negative. Palantir, this one everybody talks about Palantir. The Citron short guy is out after it. August 12th made that high of 190 and just pulled back to the 50. It's squatting at the 50. Like I said, it corrects through price or time. This one corrected through price very quickly, corrected to 142 from 190, and now just squatting at the 50. Robinhood, another leader, up 292% from 29 to 117, and it's just kind of consolidating, if you will, in a kind of a Darvis box here. So it will break out of this eventually, but you give it some time. When's the next earnings reports coming in? October, November. So let it consolidate in September and then rocket higher with another killer earnings report. So sometimes the hardest thing to do is just sit and do nothing. You don't have to be trading every day. Credo, I mentioned them earlier. They're reporting, made a high of 128.56, pull back to the 50. They're going to report this week, and I wouldn't be surprised to see a good report and a sell the news event. I'm not predicting that. I'm saying I wouldn't be surprised. CLS made that high of 218 and then pulled back to its I'd call it the 50 in spirit, underneath the 21 and rallied back up. But August 13th, I think Sanmina was the same deal. Yeah, 125, that pulled back. Dave, another one that I'm watching in the finance group. This one definitely a distinct double bottom pattern here. Made that high of 286, sold off, rallied back up, sold off, and now it's rallying back up to its 50 here. One to watch for Uncle Dave. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you for watching at mcstockcharts.com. We never give up.